During the Castellammarese War, between 1930 and 1931, he and Maranzano fought against a rival group based in Brooklyn, led by Joe Masuria and Giuseppe Morello. Third secret factions soon emerged, composed of younger mafiosi on both sides. These younger mafiosi were disgusted with the old-world predilections of Masuria, Maranzano, and other old-line mafiosi, whom they called Mustache Petes. This group of young Turk mafiosi was led by Masuria's second-in-command, Lucky Luciano, and included Frank Costello, Vito Genovese, Joe Adonis, Carlo Gambino and Albert Anastasia on the Masuria side, and Joe Profaci, Tommy Gagliano, Tommy Lucchese, Joseph Magliocco, and Stefano Megadino on the Maranzano side. Although he was more steeped in the old-school traditions of honor, tradition, respect, and dignity than other mafiosi of his generation, he saw the need to modernize and join forces with the Young Turks. In a secret deal with Maranzano, Luciano agreed to engineer the death of his boss, Masuria, in return for receiving Masuria's rackets and becoming Maranzano's second-in-command. He was killed April 15, 1931. However, although Maranzano was slightly more forward-thinking than Masuria, Luciano had come to believe that Maranzano was even more greedy and hidebound than Masuria had been, declaring himself capo di tutti capi. As a consequence, Luciano arranged Maranzano's murder on September 10, 1931. After Maranzano's death, he became boss, or as he called himself, father, of the bulk of Maranzano's family. At the age of 26, he became one of the youngest ever bosses of a crime family. His role in the events leading up to Maranzano's death has been disputed. Years later, he wrote in his autobiography that he did not know about Luciano's plans. He claimed to have only learned about them from Megadino. He subsequently learned that Maranzano and Luciano had had a falling out over influence in the garment district. Reportedly, relations between the two had soured to the point that Maranzano was planning to kill Luciano as early as one day after Maranzano was ultimately assassinated. Maranzano had given the contract to Irish gangster Vincent Mad Dog Call, who was actually on his way to Maranzano's office on the day of Maranzano's death. He concluded that going to war with Luciano would serve no purpose, since Luciano only wanted to be left alone to run his own rackets and demanded nothing from us. He also believed that his soldiers would not be enthused about going to the mattresses again so soon after the end of the Castellammarese War. For this reason, he said, he decided to choose the path of peace. However, according to mob expert Anthony Bruno, it defies mob logic to believe that Luciano would have allowed him to stay alive. In place of the capo di tutti capi in Maranzano's plan, Luciano established a national commission in which each of the families would be represented by their boss and to which each family would owe allegiance. Each family would be largely autonomous in their designated area, but the commission would arbitrate disputes between gangs. He had several legitimate businesses, including 3 coat manufacturing companies, laundries, cheese suppliers, funeral homes, and a trucking company. The funeral parlor he owned in Brooklyn was suspected to be used as a front for disposing of bodies, building double-decker coffins to fit more than one body so that both would be buried in one grave. He became a U.S. citizen in 1945. Later that year, he was convicted of violating wage laws and fined $450. He allegedly attended the Grand Hotel Et de Palms Mafia meeting in Palermo in October 1957. A month later, in November 1957, the Apalachen Conference was called by Vito Genovese to discuss the future of Cosa Nostra, which he was reported to have attended. However, the meeting was aborted when police investigated the destination of the many out-of-state attendees' vehicles and arrested many of the fleeing mafiosi. Claimed he had skipped the meeting, but the attending capo Gaspar Di Gregorio was carrying his recently renewed driver's license. An official police report instead lists him as being caught fleeing on foot. All those apprehended were fined up to $10,000 each and given prison sentences ranging from 3 to 5 years. However, all the convictions were overturned on appeal in 1960. In any case, he suffered a heart attack and was removed from testifying in the trial. In 1963, he made plans to assassinate several rivals on the Mafia Commission, bosses Tommy Lucchese, Carlo Gambino, and Stefano Megadino, as well as Frank Di Simone. He sought Profaci crime family boss Joseph Magliocco's support. and Magliocco readily agreed due to his bitterness from being denied a seat on the commission previously. His audacious goal was to take over the commission and make Magliocco his right-hand man. Magliocco was assigned the task of killing Lucchese and Gambino, and gave the contract to one of his top hitmen, Joseph Colombo. However, the opportunistic Colombo revealed the plot to its targets. The other bosses realized that Magliocco could not have planned this himself. Remembering how close he was with Magliocco, as well as their close ties through marriages, the other bosses concluded him was the real mastermind. The commission summoned him and Magliocco to explain themselves. In mid-1964, he fled to Montreal, leaving Magliocco to deal with the commission. Badly shaken and in failing health, Magliocco confessed his role in the plot. The commission spared Magliocco's life, but forced him to retire as Profaci family boss and pay a $50,000 fine. As a reward for turning on his boss, Colombo took control of the Profaci family. On his immigration documents, he falsely declared that he had never been convicted of a criminal offense. He was detained for nearly 90 days at Bordeaux prison until he was forced to leave Canada. In October 1964, he returned to Manhattan, but on October 21, 1964, the day before he was scheduled to testify to a grand jury inquiry, his lawyers said that after having dinner with them, he was kidnapped, allegedly by Megadino's men. As he entered the apartment house where one of his lawyers lived on Park Avenue and East 36th Street, FBI recordings of New Jersey boss Sam DeCavalcante revealed that the other bosses were taken by surprise when he disappeared, and other FBI recordings captured angry soldiers saying, "That son of a bitch took off and left us here alone." During his 2-year absence, Gaspar DiGregorio took advantage of family discontent over Bill Bonanno's role to claim family leadership. The Mafia Commission named DiGregorio as Bonanno family boss, and the DiGregorio revolt led to 4 years of strife in the Bonanno family, labeled by the media as the Bonanno War. This led to a divide in the family between loyalists to Bill and loyalists to DiGregorio. In early 1966, DiGregorio allegedly contacted Bill about having a peace meeting. Bill agreed and suggested his granduncle's house on Troutman Street in Brooklyn as a meeting site. On January 28, 1966, as Bill and his loyalists approached the house, they were met with gunfire. No one was wounded during this confrontation. He reappeared on May 17, 1966, at Foley Square. In 1968, DiGregorio was wounded by machine gun fire and later suffered a heart attack. The commission eventually became dissatisfied with DiGregorio's efforts at quelling the family rebellion, and eventually dropped DiGregorio and swung their support to Paul Siaka. In 1968, after a heart attack, he ended the family warfare by agreeing to retire as boss and move to Arizona. As part of this peace agreement, Bill also resigned as consigliere and moved out of New York with his father. By the late 1970s, he had become interested in writing an autobiography to offer his own take on his life. His book was published in 1983 as A Man of Honor, the autobiography of Joseph Bonanno. He justified his decision to write A Man of Honor on the grounds that Omerta represented a lifestyle and tradition greater than or beyond just the code of silence it is generally understood to be. As he had not been compelled to reveal his secrets by becoming an informant or government witness, he reasoned, he did not violate his code of honor. His editor for A Man of Honor was publisher Michael Korda, who said of Bonanno, in a world where most of the players were, at best, semi-literate, he read poetry, boasted of his knowledge of the classics, and gave advice to his cohorts in the form of quotes from Thucydides or Machiavelli. He died on May 11, 2002, of heart failure at the age of 97. He is buried at Holy Hope Cemetery and Mausoleum in Tucson. Joseph Charles Bonanno, sometimes referred to as Joe Bananas, was an Italian-American crime boss of the Bonanno crime family, which he ran from 1931 to 1968.